Welcome to the Revolutionary CEO podcast, where adaptable marketing meets real-life business strategies. I'm your host, Letitia Lynch, adaptable marketing strategist, boy mom, and CEO who believes in making marketing work for you. In this podcast, we're unlocking the gate-kept marketing strategies and advice that's usually hidden behind paywalls that solo service providers, coaches, and boutique firm owners need to market, launch, and sell their services their way. Join me every Wednesday as we explore strategies tailored to your capacity, personality, and business season. I'll also share my business shifts and bonus episodes with real questions and custom strategies from Revolutionary Society. Let's get into it. There are a lot of programs and coaches that share those big results where they've gotten like 1,500 people in their group program, course, or membership in 2 days, or had a $200 million launch, and they tell you that they can teach you how. And as they market, they always have some secret messaging, content, or sales formula that's going to help you do it too, right? But what they really have is a marketing schedule that will last a minimum of 2 months and is jam-packed with 2 to 5 per day pieces of content and emails and live events and lead magnets and delayed payments. The payouts, yes, they are amazing, but the pressure, gut health, stress, social media anxiety, ghosted accounts, and marketing resistance you feel after, not so much. Now, I've had a successful, if you call 200K a year, successful year without even hard launching, and damn sure not from daily content, emails, and even a lead magnet to book out things like VIP days and one-on-one mentorship. And even when I had to post more often to launch like my final group program, it was literally 1/8 of what they're teaching you guys. That was, by the way, in my high ticket days, and my audience and the people I serve sell high ticket. So the heart of this episode is going to be for you people. So if you're here and you sell high ticket, I promise you, there is so much hope for you to not have to be stressed out with marketing. So please listen up and share this with somebody who sells high ticket like you, who has been stressed out about how much marketing content you have been having to do. But to be quite honest with you, it is completely different when you're selling low ticket. I will admit it to being actually necessary, though I'm not used to it. And honestly, doing a very poor job at it, posting daily and even multiple times a day to sell low ticket now that I want to focus on Revolutionary Society, which is a low ticket membership. It's $247 a month. That's low ticket, and you need volume for that, and I'm not used to it. So we're going to have a really honest conversation about the biggest differences and how I marketed high ticket versus now low ticket offers when it's a permanent offer. And I'll tell you different things I tried. They were all successful, but some wholly unnecessary. So you can decide for yourself how to best spend your marketing energy and time. But if you already know that you don't have the energy and time capacity to spend 5 days a week posting multiple times to social media, or even the mental capacity to even create the content ideas to pre-schedule that much content, because they try to trick you into batching it too, then you gotta stop committing to these schedules. Because what ends up happening is now not only do you gotta keep up with those unrealistic marketing schedules or expectations, you don't really do any consistent marketing whatsoever after that either. And even with 2 to 3 social posts a week and 1 to 2 longer formatted pieces of content a month, like a blog post or like a podcast episode, live or YouTube video, whichever one you choose, that can be found and it has to be able to be found via Google search, and 1 email a week. That will actually build enough momentum to start bringing in leads to your website, email list, and even your DMs if you do the strategy the right way. And because I know that's possible, because I've actually done it at times where I've been knee deep in done for you service client work or just burnt out, and I've had clients get booked out for 6 months straight just from purely momentum, I actually created the Lead Overflow Challenge last year to help others create a marketing schedule they know that they'll actually be able to stick with too, because they chose it themselves, and give them the strategic framework for what they needed to cover in those few pieces of content so that they convert, since they aren't posting as frequently as those others try to push out there. The next Lead Overflow Challenge is actually coming up in less than 2 weeks. So make sure you buy your ticket. It's only $47 to get all of the above. That means you planning out just the 2 to 3 social posts a week, 1 to 2 longer formatted pieces of content for the entire month, and sending like 1 email a week. If you can commit to that, you get to get all that stuff and spend 5 days with me making sure that you have the strategy to do it. The link will be in the show notes, or you can just go to leadoverflowchallenge.com. Okay, so Before I dive into some examples of the different launches and non-launches that ended successfully, I want to talk about the major differences in marketing a high ticket offer versus a low ticket offer from my perspective as a marketing and content strategist so that we're on the same page for this episode. When it comes to high ticket and premium priced offers, the benefit of them is that you don't need very many clients in a month to hit your income goals. Yes, you need to get creative with the math because of like payment plans, but if you're consistent with your marketing, something that we'll discuss the value of and how that leads to momentum later on in the episode, then you should always have a steady flow of new clients coming in paying deposits, active clients paying payment plans, and also the people who pay in full too. And another benefit of the marketing side is because you don't need very many of those clients, you also don't need to post a lot of marketing content, or at least not as frequently, to get enough leads to convert enough clients to hit your income goals. There is a caveat to this, of course, and that is the value of the content itself actually needs to be higher. But right now, we're just talking about the differences in high versus low ticket. We'll talk about value and all that stuff a little bit later and probably in another episode. Speaking of high ticket versus low ticket, on the flip side, when it comes to low ticket offers, even those offers that are also like in that mid-ish price range, think of like, 500 to like 1,000-ish, maybe just a little under. You need more clients and customers to hit your income goals, especially if those goals near like that 5-figure plus mark. So when it comes to marketing with those offers, you will need to market more frequently in order to get the volume of leads and convert enough people into paying customers. And the problem is, as a high ticket service provider, and by the way, coaches and consultants, I don't have time for semantics, so I am always including you when I say service providers. The problem is you as a service provider sometimes confuse the marketing advice that you hear out there of these low ticket, high volume folks with your own advice, and it's not for you usually. When really, less really can be more for you with the right content, value, and strategy. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I wasn't playing those unnecessary high volume content games when I started my business back in 2020 to launch high ticket stuff. But honestly, I also was a new business owner back then with no brand reputation. So I kind of had to simultaneously both build my brand and book out my offers. This was also the year that Reels came out. So short form content gave you both high visibility with very little effort. I mean, the videos weren't that long, right? And so let's start with my high ticket sales evolution, because I want you to see that the frequency of my content eventually goes down and my sales weirdly went up, and it went up faster. And this was actually honestly very surprising to me, I'm not gonna lie. So let's start from the beginning. My first multi-5-figure launch for a group program came from a 2-month launch that included a free 5-day challenge that I hosted in my free Facebook community that I promoted on Instagram and to my email list with things like Reels, IGTV, and live videos. It wasn't a high volume, but I did send 5 emails a week. I posted to stories 5 days a week, and I posted to my feed at least 3 times a week, sometimes 4 to 5 for about 2 months. I launched a mastermind. That's what I was launching at the time. It was $6,000. My goal was to get 6 people. I did get the 6 people. And I do want to note, just for sake of honesty, that I did also have a speaking engagement at that time. And someone, when I was booking that person, they mentioned that they saw me from there. So that lead definitely came specifically from that speaking engagement, not from the lead magnet. But most of the people came from that free challenge. Many of those free challenge people also went on to join other high ticket offers like accelerators, one-on-one services or programs that I had, coaching, group programs, and low ticket offers that I offered later on, like courses and workshops. And this was all like in an 18-month span. It was actually my highest performing lead magnet for years with the ROI, obviously, though I only did it once because I was burnt out for like 2 weeks afterwards. It's very high energy to do a 5-day challenge. But then I changed my strategy because then I joined a program, and in that program, they had us launch for 3 weeks only. So I obviously was going to follow the strategy that the person taught us. So I followed that, and you had to go live 3 times a week in your Facebook community. I chose to do a mixture of live and IGTV because I didn't always have time for live. I have a child, and at that time he was much younger. He would have been like three-ish. I also simultaneously decided to go live in my Facebook, and also I was doing that on my computer, and then on IG, I was doing it on my phone because honestly, IG converted better for me. At this time, I was learning that coaches often would teach you to do things that work for them, without thinking about the people that they're teaching. It might not also work the same for like their people in their program. So I would just change the process and do it for myself. I would do what worked for me. Anyways, she wasn't teaching us emails, so we weren't really sending any emails. You also had an application process and a DM sales script. My goal was 6 people. I only got 3 people for my first launch. The program was $5,000. I then changed to my own launch strategy, which was a 3 to 4 week process with 3 major videos per week. I'll tell you what those were as we go on. 5 days per week of stories. I just liked stories, and I noticed that they converted really well for me. And by the way, at that time, stories were only a max of 15 seconds. So I was going on stories all the time, but they weren't, they might have totaled like 3 minutes tops of stories, of 15-second stories. And 3 times a week, I was sending emails max, maybe stretching to maybe 5 on like that final week of my 3 to 4 week process. For the videos, I would go live definitely once a week, and the others were pre-recorded IGTV because IGTV still existed then. In those videos, I tried to average 3 minutes if I could. I also would do a few reels, carousels, and maybe graphics, images, whatever I decided to do as supplementary content that would have been repurposed from the long form content. When I say repurpose, whatever the topic would have been in the long form content, I would pull out like the concept and talk a little bit in depth or do a graphic to reconceptualize in a better way. And I also was doing it in the supplementary content to reiterate points and increase visibility so that they would see my long form content. Essentially, I wanted people to come to my account, and when they did, I knew that they would go to the long form content because that's what was converting for me. And I did this for years, and this was a 6-figure year. So it was working. It was a 6-figure a year strategy every year that I did that. And I did that for like 2 years. It worked. That also didn't wear me out because the supplementary content was optional. It was not a dedicated part of my strategy. I just did it because I wanted to. And I did it because I enjoyed it. And when I was tired or uninspired, I didn't do it. And since the launch was only a few weeks, I was consistent and I always had momentum. And this momentum showed in ways like I would get DMs about one-on-one coaching, even though I wasn't marketing one-on-one coaching. I also mentioned that I was thinking about doing like a VIP day one day in my stories. And once I did that, I kept booking it, though I was never, ever, and I never actually launched it. I booked it for that entire year, which was 2021, without ever launching it properly, which tells you something about momentum. You're going to hear me talk about momentum a lot. Marketing momentum like that comes from consistent marketing, not launching necessarily. I don't want you to get consistent marketing mixed up with launching, so I don't want you to take that away from what I'm saying. I could have just been doing my regular marketing schedule, which I did discover actually does happen. It happened to me in September of that same year, so September 2021, and it lasted until May 2022 until I actually got burned out. It also happened to me again from July to September 2024. And the momentum actually builds super duper fast, and it will fill your calendar so damn fast that your head will spin. And it actually ended up happening for a client of mine also in 2024, and it happened to her for 6 months straight, and she ended up needing a break too because she's also a service provider. And this is when I brought back some services, one-on-one services, done for you services, done with you services. Service providers, you know exactly what I mean. When you get booked out like that, you want it, but then when you get it, it's like, ooh, oh no. So speaking of 2022, coming into that year, I had a big monthly revenue goal of $30,000 a month because in 2021, I had finally achieved a goal that I had in fall of 2020 that I didn't ever achieve consistently at the time, which was consistent $20,000 months. And once I hit that, I decided $30,000 was the next one, right? And the way to get there was booking out I had an $8,000 VIP day and a $6,000 mentorship. And I told you that I already had that momentum from 2021. And both were kind of booked pretty solid. I was about halfway full, but unfortunately with VIP days, they require new clients every month. But mentorship, I only needed a roster. And once I would get that roster full, those people would kind of last for 6 months. It was a 6-month mentorship. So January 2022, I thought I'd talk about it and maybe even obviously do a launch so I can book out my quarter. Service providers, I always recommend, even though you're not thinking you need to do a launch, it's not going to be like a serious launch like how group program people or these membershipy people have to do or course people, none of that. But honestly, I think you should launch because you want to fill up your roster for the quarter as much as you can so that then you know what gaps you need to fill. So that's what I was thinking I was going to have to do, but I didn't even need to because that momentum that I told you about from 2021 carried over. And as soon as I even just started saying how many spots that I had via stories, and I did do a few posts. I'm not going to lie. I was doing posts. I did a few reels and videos on my feed talking about like my process, showing the feedback that people were giving. I used to record like little videos of them after our session, our VIP day. And then I would be like, how did you feel? And I would do some behind the scenes videos. By the way, since Revolutionary CEO now lives on my Substack, when I mentioned some of these posts, like how I used to do behind the scenes videos or during a launch period where I wasn't posting that many things or some of the posts that I was doing during a launch, I'm actually going to share some of those examples in the Substack post so that you can see what those posts look like at that time, so that you can get some really good examples of the things that actually worked and the quality of some of the like long form pieces of content that I was doing that didn't require me to do so much. And you can actually leave comments under the episodes and ask me questions about anything that I'm talking about. So make sure you go to the Substack. If you're listening in your podcast app, it will be linked in the show notes of this episode. But it was like 3 posts a week max and maybe 1 or 2 emails in a week. And if that, honestly, because email didn't really convert for those offers. I'd never really booked from email with those. Every other offer I had booked from email except my VIP days in my mentorship program. Anyway, the spots booked out for the quarter for both in like a week and a half, not gonna lie. Like I was so shocked. And I had an OBM at the time and my mom was working for me. We all were like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I didn't see it then, but looking back, high ticket services never needed the hoopla. Showing the behind the scenes, talking about the process, sharing the results, talking through the strategies that I was helping people come up with or coming up with for them. Simple content a few times a week when I had the time worked. And if I stuck with it, momentum was literally inevitable. Stories where people could ask questions or simply just click the link to look at the sales page. By the way, always have a website that people can look at the pricing and look at what you're talking about and what you're going to do. I highly recommend that. If they had that, they would just book or they would DM me. And I converted most of those really high priced, in my opinion, offers without calls, but definitely mostly via DMs. It was rare that people would just convert and like just buy it. And usually that was because they were referrals. And I wouldn't have made the money that I made if I didn't do those DM conversations. Anyway, I stopped doing my group program and those services by like June, July of 2022 and decided that service provider momentum actually killed me, honestly. My energy, my attitude, I couldn't do it. So I wanted to do something different. And this is when I made the switch to low ticket and I started off non-committal with 2 workshops, each priced at $99 with an upgrade of like $497 with 5 spots each. And the goal was to get 20 people into each of the workshop. Not only did I make $10K from both of them, which was awesome. I got 20 people in each. One got like 25 people, one got 20 exactly, which was shocking, by the way. But I only marketed it for 2 weeks via email. And I only sent 3 dedicated emails and mentioned it in my newsletter once. And I posted a handful of social posts on IG feed over 2 weeks about both at the same time. I was talking literally about both those workshops at the same time. So I could have confused my audience. I didn't even care. I was just like, who cares? And yes, my stories were lit because they're just easy for me. Yes, this is a part of what's going to be in the Substack. So make sure you go to the show notes if you want to see examples of literally the few posts that I did on social media on my feed. It will shock you how easy it was to launch. Still not a long launch. I still got good volume and I still got good income because that was $20K from 2 weeks of work. I was not stressed. I was not killing myself. These workshops also inspired Revolutionary Society, my membership. And this is where I messed up though, because I let the ease of marketing those low ticket workshops and the premiere of my membership, which launched with like 20 to 25 founders in September of 2022, make me think that low ticket, high volume game was going to be easy. In fact, I just knew that from that September launch with the 20 to 25 founders that the public October launch was going to bring me 25 more. I ended up with like a total of 35 people, so 10 more. But that's okay, because surely I thought by December we'd be at 100 people, right? Especially if I just talked about it, because momentum. And it's only $97 a month. Yes, you had to pay for the quarter, but still, people were paying me before this $8K, $6K, $10K, but no. For years, I've watched people trickle into the membership because momentum marketing does not work for low ticket, high volume offers. You need frequent content that brings in a high volume of leads, and you either have to do a conversion event, red lead magnet event or offer, ads, both, or post a bunch of content. And usually it's a combination of all three if you don't want to burn out. And for like the one-off course, bundle, Notion template, yes, I always have a 5-figure launch. I always talk about them. Yes, those work just fine. But long term, it has actually been really hard for me to sustain the high volume marketing because I haven't honestly reset my mindset to remember that though I teach high ticket marketing strategies, though I give people high ticket marketing strategies and plan high ticket content strategies and give high ticket strategies, I'm not selling high ticket primarily. And when I do, yes, it sells just fine. The momentum builds. That's not the problem. So to recap, in my experience, high ticket and premium offers never, ever require a lot of content to hit your revenue goals, but it always requires, for me in my experience at least, long form content, not a lot, but it always has required long form content for me and a way for people to talk with you and interact with you directly. And once you can pick a schedule to be consistent with your marketing, whatever that schedule can be for you, give the momentum time to build up. You must also actually sell though, because I was selling in the stories. I was saying I have how many spots left, or book a call with me, or slide into my DMs. But once that momentum builds, it will stay there. And in the Lead Overflow Challenge though, we actually plan also for when you have low energy and low capacity, because consistent doesn't mean you can't take a break. It just means that there's a plan for how your leads will flow and when they'll still get content from you when you can't be active, whether you're sick, partying on a yacht on vacation, or having a snow day with your kid. But they're truly, honestly, when I think about my high ticket marketing and the momentum and how much money I made, there wasn't a big enough difference for me to kill myself to post more content, seeing that I actually made the 200K when I was doing a lot less. And it was because that momentum was more important than the frequency of content or the amount of content. And I want you to take that away. So I believe marketing is definitely less about frequency when it comes to high ticket and just more about momentum. And on the flip side, what I've learned is that momentum don't mean shit with low ticket. You still have to have the volume, whether it comes from you posting more content or you paying for ads that show your content more often, or honestly, a combination of both. You can blitz with the content to a lead magnet and have a conversion event, which is a cheat, but you also need the energy and the time to do that without making money while you wait for it might even be up to 2 months. And yes, I know you can make money from a tripwire from your lead magnet and an upsell and all those things, so you don't have to wait the full 2 months for your lead magnet conversion event to convert to your paid offer, but you get what I'm saying. But it's a lot of work, and you still need the high volume of leads and an ads budget or a lot of doggone content to pull it off successfully. Yes, the payoff is usually worth it if you can afford to wait for it. And for my high ticket girls who now have the hope that you'd rather figure out a reasonable marketing schedule and just build up that momentum, get your ticket for the Lead Overflow Challenge. We actually start very soon. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to leadoverflowchallenge.com. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the Revolutionary CEO podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform and leave a review to let me know the moments you enjoyed most. Substackers, Spotify users, and YouTubers, leave me a comment with your biggest takeaway or questions from the episode. And be sure to connect with me on Instagram, YouTube, or Threads. I'm always at Her Marketing Coach. Talk to you next week.